Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Kendra. If you're new here and you like true crime, hit that subscribe button. Today's story, we're going to be talking about the gruesome murder of 40-year-old Ingrid Lyne. Ingrid Marie Lyne was born August 2nd, 1975 in, I believe, Tucson, Arizona. She graduated from Canyon del Oro High School in 1993. There isn't much information online about Ingrid's childhood or upbringing, but I do know Ingrid as an adult was a petite-framed but larger-than-life type of person. She had a vibrant smile, was known to be very smart with a sharp personality. Friends described her as being a great friend, very loving, someone who didn't care what anyone else thought about her. She was a very responsible woman who even received a Bachelor of Science in Nursing degree in 1997. And in year 2000, Ingrid moved to a small town called Renton, which is a small city outside of Seattle, Washington. She became a nurse at Swedish Hospital, which was known to be a major hospital in Seattle. I'm not sure when Ingrid had gotten married, but she and her husband, Philip Lyne, divorced in 2014, and they had 3 daughters named Reese, Brooke, and Noelle sometime during their marriage. After Ingrid and Philip separated, they had a great co-parenting type of relationship. They got along very well when it came to custody of their girls. They came to quick agreements on drop-off times and pickup times. So they pretty much had everything figured out when it came to their 3 girls. Her husband, Philip, would later describe Ingrid as a woman he very much respected because she was a loving, devoted, caring mother who was always there for her girls and always put them first before and above everything. In 2016, Ingrid created a profile on a dating app called Plenty of Fish, where she eventually met a man named John Robert Charlton. John's profile described him as being a 37-year-old Caucasian male with green eyes and an average body type of 5'9", weighing 155 pounds, stating he was a non-smoker and only drank occasionally. Under occupation, he had student from Seattle, Washington, and under religious belief, he put Christian. For his bio, he had written his longest relationship was a little over 2 years with, quote, "My intent here is to simply make friends and meet up for good conversation. Not much of the crowded bar and club type. Mellow quiet is more of my scene. Not here for dating, only friendships. This is not some scam to get laid either. However, if we did meet up as friends and grabbed coffee, beer, comedy show, etc., whatever people do as friends, basically," end quote. So I told you guys exactly what I read on his profile, so if it doesn't make sense, that's how it was written. But feeling the need to say he's not looking to get laid really sticks out to me because if that wasn't your intent, why would you feel the need to have to put that on a dating profile? That just is kind of a red flag. If I saw that and I was single, looking to mingle, that would not interest me. Also on his profile under children, he put undecided/open to having kids. So 2 profiles now saying 2 different things. One says he has kids and one says that he doesn't. Going into John's upbringing and childhood, just like Ingrid, there wasn't really much available online, at least from my sources. But what I did find is that he's a possible native from Idaho who graduated from West Auburn High School. Now, I say possibly because this was on his own personal Facebook page, and because of the inaccuracies on his dating apps, I'm not sure what to believe. So I don't know if that's true or not. Ingrid and John started to get to know each other through this dating app and eventually decided to meet. Now, I'm not sure how long they spoke or got to know each other for before deciding to meet up, and I'm not sure where they first met or what occurred when they first met. After meeting for the first time, Ingrid and John kind of started to date, and it was pretty quick. He would come over about 3-4 times a week to her single-story home in the city of Renton. They would go out, have drinks, and they would also be intimate. Ingrid soon realizes that John is actually homeless. He didn't have a car, he didn't have a job, but that didn't stop Ingrid from wanting some type of relationship with John. She still continued to see him. Now, I don't think Ingrid wanted anything serious or official with John. It seemed as if she may have been bored having the same routine every day, being a mom, being a nurse. So maybe this thing with John brought a little excitement to her life for the time being. I say this because Ingrid didn't share with her family and friends anything regarding John. I personally feel maybe she was embarrassed of associating herself with John because he didn't have anything going for himself. Or maybe she didn't see anything going further than just the few times a week hookups and having someone to go out with. Maybe just wanted someone to be around. Friday, April 8th, 2016, Philip Lyne, Ingrid's ex-husband, took their 3 daughters, who were 12, 10, and 7 at the time, with plans to drop them back off with Ingrid the following morning. John and Ingrid get ready to head out to a Mariners baseball game at the Safeco Stadium, which is now called T-Mobile Park Stadium in Seattle, Washington. The game that they were scheduled to attend started at 7:10 p.m., which they arrived early and decided to go to a bar across the street called Beer Gardens. John now was already super intoxicated when leaving that bar and heading to the baseball game. Now, skipping to the following morning on Saturday, April 9th, Ingrid's ex-husband, Philip, arrives as they planned at 7:30 in the morning to drop off their 3 daughters. He first notices that Ingrid's 2015 Toyota Highlander is not parked in her driveway, but he still decides to knock on the door to see if maybe she's still home. I didn't even know that light is just the sun. My window's open, and the sun is just giving me that sun glow. Sorry, I'll go fix that. After a few minutes of Ingrid not answering, he begins to call and text Ingrid, but she doesn't respond to any of his calls or text messages. He grew very concerned extremely fast because Ingrid was a reliable type of person, especially when it came to the drop-offs and pickups of their daughters. This wasn't like her to have made plans for Philip to drop the kids off and her not to be around. Philip decides to call Ingrid's mother, Georgia Bass, to ask if maybe she's spoken to Ingrid and to share his concerns with her. Georgia also feels that this is out of the ordinary for her daughter, so Georgia and her other daughter head over to Ingrid's home since they live only a few minutes away, where she would then pull up to Ingrid's home to find Philip awaiting outside. Ingrid and her family were extremely close. Ingrid's mother and sister both had their own set of keys to Ingrid's home. Georgia enters the quiet home and she realizes right away that Ingrid's cell phone and purse are on the kitchen counter, and Ingrid is nowhere to be found. They begin to walk through the house yelling Ingrid's name, and they're not getting any response. They walk into Ingrid's master bathroom, and hitting them like a ton of bricks is the overwhelming smell of bleach. They also find a 15-inch pruning saw leaning against the sink in the bathtub. Immediately, Georgia calls the Renton Police Department. While waiting for the police to arrive, Georgia speaks to Ingrid's neighbor, she calls family members, and she calls Ingrid's friends. A friend tells her that Ingrid had texted her around 10:30 p.m., letting her know that she was going on a date. A family friend shares that Ingrid had mentioned going to a baseball game with a man named John, but that's the only thing that she knew. Now, Ingrid's neighbor also mentions the name John. Feeling like this man John may have been the last to see her daughter, she remembers that her and Ingrid shared a phone plan. She decides to look at Ingrid's phone calls. She sees the same number frequently popping up, and Ingrid's sister decides to do her own investigation. She does a Google phone number search, which ended up leading her to a Facebook page. And associated with that Facebook page was the name John Charlton. Now, because Ingrid's phone was still left at her house, the mom ends up going through the phone in hopes to find the name John under her contacts. Sure enough, there is a contact under John, so Georgia decides to text the number. Georgia then decides to text the number, and the number responds with, quote, "This is John Charlton. I thought she had her kids today," end quote. Georgia then asks him, when did you last see her? Her purse, keys, phone, license are all here, but she's not. Please respond. I've called 911. He then responds with, 911? What's going on? We went to the Mariners game last night, but we didn't stay the night together because she had her kids today. Not sure what she has told you about mine and her's relationship, end quote. Georgia then says, she's missing. What time did you see her last? A police officer needs to speak to you. You may have been the last to see her. Then she directs him to call the investigator working on Ingrid's disappearance. After sending the officers contact information, John ends up going silent. There was no more responses to Georgia. Police at this time arrive at the home and start investigating. They notice right away on Ingrid's computer that there were tickets for the Mariners game. scheduled for April 8th at 7:10 p.m. They, of course, find out from Georgia all the information about John Charlton and how she retrieved this information. Police then see the saw in the bathroom, which the family confirmed that the saw is not normally placed there, but they didn't see any signs of struggle or blood anywhere in the bathroom or anywhere in the house. Around 9:45 a.m. that same morning that Ingrid was reported missing, Seattle police received a phone call stating that sanitation workers found human remains in a blue recycling bin on 21st Ave and East Pine Street, which is approximately 10 miles away from Ingrid's home. In this recycling bin was 3 trash bags. Inside of the 3 trash bags, they found a left arm, a right leg, and a severed head. Seattle police did not link these remains to Ingrid right away, but around 4:30 p.m. that same day on April 9th, because they had no information or leads to who these remains could possibly belong to, they sent out a radio alert to all nearby cities, to other police departments, in hopes that they would find some information from missing person reports to link the remains to someone. Renton police caught word of this discovery right away and started working with the Seattle Police Department to determine if the remains were connected to Ingrid's disappearance. The severed head had no signs of decomposition, facial features were still intact, and very distinctive. So they were able to use Ingrid's driver's license photo to compare to the severed head found. Even though DNA would take a few days to positively confirm, they felt confident that the head belonged to Ingrid Lyne. Police connected the dots extremely fast in this situation because the remains were fresh and not deceased long. They were able to make confirmation of identity fairly quickly. I wish this could happen in so many more cases, and I'm just glad that they took the family very serious when they first reported her. You don't see that in a lot of cases. Usually police want to say, oh, you can't report her missing until 24 hours because she's an adult. So I'm just really glad that they took this case very serious. Just after midnight, police obtained a search warrant for Ingrid's home to do more of a thorough search. Due to the saw being found in the bathroom, they did find blood DNA around the drain, so they decided to remove the plumbing below the bathtub, and they ended up finding flesh and blood. Also found in the kitchen of the home was an empty box of trash bags. These trash bags also matched the same trash bags that were found in the recycling bin with Ingrid's remains. Even though Georgia had constantly tried to contact John still through text messages, she never got a response from him, and he never contacted the police when she directed him to do so. On April 11th, police located Ingrid's 2015 Toyota Highlander in Seattle, approximately 3 miles away from where they went to the baseball game. Same day, investigators located John in Lake Stevens, about 45 miles from Seattle, and brought him in for questioning. John, in the interview, was described as being very nonchalant. He was very arrogant, almost as if he was annoyed to be there or even to be asked any type of questions regarding Ingrid. But yet he was very calm and casual. They noted John having abrasions on his forehead and hand, injuries on his lip and chin, and scratches on his chest. To them, these injuries indicated that if he was responsible for Ingrid's death, that she definitely put up a fight for her life. When investigators asked him what him and Ingrid did on Friday, April 8th, he says he remembers going with Ingrid to a bar called Beer Gardens across the street from the stadium as they awaited for the game. But he said after being at the bar, he has no further memory of what happened and says that he was extremely intoxicated and doesn't remember how they even got to Ingrid's home. But he believes that they must have attended the game, then went back to Ingrid's home, and assumes that they had sexual relations because that's what they would normally do when he would go over to her house, and she must have taken him to the bus stop in Seattle. He knew he wasn't able to stay the night that particular night due to Ingrid not being ready for him to meet her girls yet, and also her girls were going to be getting dropped off by their father very early that following morning. So he does end up saying, quote, "I don't know, I was drunk. Maybe I just wanted a candy bar," end quote. So I'm assuming he's saying I was drunk and maybe I walked off to the gas station to go get a candy bar and then never went back. I don't know what he meant there. He doesn't elaborate. Now, I want to go over the difference between blacking out and passing out while intoxicated. Passing out is pretty much when someone is in a deep sleep, very hard for them to be woken up. And blacked out drunk is when someone looks as if they're completely awake, they're walking around, moving, functioning as normal, and they can be alerted of things going on around them. Now, being someone sober looking on at someone who's blacked out, you wouldn't even know that this person would not remember that moment. You can have a full-on deep conversation with this person and they would not remember what conversation had occurred. But how someone blacks out is the alcohol crosses the blood-brain barrier and attaches to the hippocampus, so therefore your brain is not able to create long-term memories. So someone who's blacked out is aware of what's going on during that time, but they just won't remember later what had happened when the alcohol wears off. So that's my little explanation of the difference of those who don't know what blacked out drunk and passed out drunk is. I'm 31. I did used to drink and hang out with friends, so I have experienced it and I do know the difference. It's not something that you want to do. Just don't even drink. Before quickly ending his interview by saying that he should probably have a lawyer, he tells investigators that Ingrid was acting very weird, but he didn't go further into detail, so I'm not sure what his explanation as to why Ingrid was being weird to him. Investigators leave the room to kind of regroup to figure out what their approach is going to be with John, and John is seen on camera taking off his jacket, rolling it up, and using it as a pillow as he lays down on the floor to take a nap. Eventually, John is let go because they don't have any evidence or anything to hold him with. But on April 13th, due to evidence being found in Ingrid's bathroom, John Robert Charlton was arrested for first-degree murder and auto theft. He was booked into the King County Jail and was held on a $5 million bond. When John was arrested, he did have $125 cash in his wallet. On April 15th, more remains were found in a blue recycling bin located on 20th Ave and East Marin Street. Then again on April 18th, located on the 200 block near South Hanford Street. When the news broke out of John being arrested for Ingrid's murder, an ex-girlfriend of his named Heather was in shock and quickly came forward with information. She let investigators know that John was indeed homeless, but she would allow John to stay at her home a few times a week. She says that John was supposed to help her with yard work early that Saturday morning, but he had texted her saying that something had came up. He did end up showing up at the bus stop a little bit later than expected, which they had plans for her to pick him up at. Around 10:30 a.m., he ends up showing up and he has a busted lip, tells her that someone tried to rob him. But once he was in her car, Heather notices that he still had his wallet and money was still inside. So she doubted the story he was trying to tell her. She goes on to say in the interview that John stayed at her home that Saturday and also Sunday night. In an interview with Dr. Phil, Heather's asked how they met. She says they worked together at one point, he was clean cut, a nice guy, so they eventually hung out and started dating. But it was only on and off for 6 months. When asked how he was towards Heather, she says that he moved in with her and her daughter, and at first he was very loving and attentive towards her, but shortly after she felt she was walking on eggshells and made her feel like everything she did wasn't good enough. Says he was a very black and white thinker, said when she did things that he didn't like, he would sit her down like a father and lecture her. When Dr. Phil asked her when she discovered that John had been arrested, if deep down she believed that he was capable of doing something like this. She responds with, quote, "Absolutely, I was not surprised, because he is charming, witty, very smart, but something about his eyes were scary, like a dark side," end quote. The interview goes on with Heather saying that they fought a lot when alcohol was involved, saying he was a completely different person. He was mean, stubborn, but never violent, just emotionally abusive towards her. He would try to get in your head, is what she said. He allegedly choked her in the past due to him drinking and being very angry. She ends the interview with saying, "Wow, that could have been me." King County's medical examiner's office stated Ingrid's death was a result of homicidal violence. Now, going into John's criminal history, he has a very lengthy record in 6 different states for aggravated robbery, felony theft, grand theft, vehicle assault, third-degree larceny, and arrest for battery. Movie called Hannibal, which I'm sure all of you have watched, out of their movie collection located on the shelf, and told his mother in a very creepy, stern-sounding voice, quote, "You should watch this. Beware," end quote. They soon filed a restraining order against John after this incident, but because John had told his parents that he felt life was putting so much pressure on him and he felt he was becoming mentally unstable, his parents ended up feeling sorry for John and later dismissed the restraining order. The same year that they dismissed the restraining order, John was convicted of aggravated robbery in Utah. Then in 2009 was convicted of felony theft in Montana and negligent driving in Washington State in 1998. John's parents in an interview later say, John holds grudges for years, and when he drinks, his frustrations come out through anger and causes violence. Sober, he is great, but when alcohol is involved, he's a completely different person. We're now hearing from the ex-girlfriend and also his own parents saying that when he drinks, he's just a straight problem. Violent, careless to those that he loves. So this is just a pattern for John. He definitely has a problem with drinking. A friend of Ingrid's named Nancy had an interview with reporters, and she had said that Ingrid never saw red flags when it came to John. She would have never, ever taken the risk if she thought something was wrong. Ingrid's neighbor Robert also had an interview with reporters saying, quote, I almost got sick. I mean, I just talked to her. She was a nice lady with great kids, end quote. Also to give an interview after Ingrid's horrific murder was a man named Mike Novison, who recalls finding the remains. He says, quote, it was just 3 bags in the bottom of a bin that were incredibly heavy and weren't supposed to be there. I grabbed the first bag and it was almost professionally packaged. That is what was very eerie. I could see as I pulled it out what was the outline of a face, end quote. John ends up pleading guilty in October 2017 to spare the family from the ordeal of a trial and to bring them closure. So on January 5th, 2018, John Robert Charlton was sentenced to 27 years and 9 months for the murder of Ingrid Lyne, which was the punishment recommended by prosecutors. John tells the story of what he kind of remembers that night. In his statement, he admits to strangling Ingrid for several minutes while sitting on top of her. He then admits to putting her body into the bathtub and using a 15-inch pruning saw to cut her limbs from her torso, then bagging her dismembered body parts into multiple trash bags from her kitchen. He then placed her torso in a Coleman cooler also found in her kitchen. He then admits to stealing her SUV and placed the several trash bags in blue recycling bins located all around Seattle area. After he left her SUV abandoned, he then spent the night on a street in Seattle, but he doesn't recall how he got there. John's public defender stated, there is no physical evidence to link any particular person to this crime. Also said time of death was established in the certification and it overlaps the time that Ingrid and John were together. But he accepts full responsibility of the crime. After sentencing, Ingrid's family was able to give victim impact statements to John directly. Philip Lyne's statement was so heart-wrenching to hear, saying, quote, you have taken my parental companion, my co-pilot. You've taken my sounding board for our daughters. Our daughters miss their mother at ballet recitals, soccer games, and holidays. There is no more motherly advice from Ingrid. There will be no mother of the bride. There will be no maternal grandmother for our children's children. I very much respected Ingrid, end quote. Nancy, a friend of Ingrid, also was able to speak, saying, quote, Ingrid wasn't just murdered. Her body was brutally violated and discarded like she was nothing. She fought to have a life and you forced her to die. You smothered her laugh and crushed her smile. You killed her physical body, not her energy, her soul, or her light. Ingrid is here represented by those who love her, end quote. Also to make a statement was the judge that sentenced John. Now that I'm looking at my notes, I did not put her name in here, but I will look it up and put it in the description below if you're interested. She does go on to say, quote, I received so many letters telling me you should never be free from prison. She's reflecting on sentencing him the death sentence. She goes on to say, if there was ever a case to do so, this would be the one, and I think you know that. Your crimes were and remain vicious and cruel beyond words. Nothing can soften the cruelty with which you committed murder, end quote. John, too, actually had a statement to Ingrid's family after his sentencing. He stood up and looked towards where her family were seated, trying to hold back tears, and he said, quote, there is no words that can alleviate the pain that I've caused you. For that, I am truly sorry, end quote. Now, I do want to share with all of you, when it comes to his sentencing, I know it was a shock of how short his sentence was. Immediately, I thought the same thing, and I started, doing my research, like, why did he only get 27 years? And from what I found, it looks that in 2014, death penalty cases have been suspended in Washington state due to Governor Jay Inslee making a ruling after finding several problems with the way capital punishment was being carried out in the state. There are 9 men on death row in Washington, and the state has not executed anyone since 2001. The judge sentenced him to the maximum sentence allowed by state law, and based on the charges in his criminal history and his other state charges not being counted towards sentencing, 28 years was all he could get. I have a few questions about all of this. I mean, I'm sure you guys do too. Why did he dispose of her remains in recycling bins and not regular trash bins? I mean, recycling bins are sorted through and trash bins go straight to the landfill, and it minimizes the chance of a body being found. So why did he choose to put them in the recycling bin? And it wasn't just spur of the moment, because all of the remains were all found in several recycling bins. None of them were ever found in trash bins. Also, if he dismembered her in her bathroom, where's all the evidence? I mean, he took a pruning saw and sawed her limbs off of her body, and there's just no blood behind the toilet. They just found no blood DNA anywhere besides a little bit around the drain, and also flesh and blood in the drain, in the pipes of the bathtub. But there wasn't any on the ceiling, there wasn't any on the floor, there wasn't any in little crevices. I'm just not understanding how there was no evidence. That's my biggest question. From the naked eye, it just looked so normal, like nothing had occurred in that bathroom. So that's just pretty shocking to me. Now, going over the evidence connecting him to this crime, now don't get me wrong, I truly 100%, my personal opinion, believe that he had something to do with her murder. But with the evidence that has been released to the public, if I were part of the jury, if it had went to trial and was presented this evidence, I could not 100% say he without a doubt committed this murder. They did mention some evidence located in her bathroom did link him to the crime, but I did not personally find anywhere what that particular evidence was. So maybe if you guys know and have a link, please comment that below. I'm very interested, because other than that, I'm not really sure how they linked him to the crime other than being with her that previous night. And obviously him admitting to the crime. What do you guys think his motive was? Do you think he was just drunk and it was spur of the moment? Do you think she said something or did something that caused an argument and made him just totally flip and murder her? I mean, what do you guys think the motive was? Why they were having an okay relationship up until this point. They were going out a lot. They weren't really arguing as far as what she would tell her friends that did know about him. I mean, what do you guys think happened there? I'm so glad that this guy pled guilty to her murder, because I don't feel like we would have had the same outcome if it were to go to trial. I'm just being honest. After Ingrid's murder, her family and friends created a GoFundMe account, and they raised over $270,000 for her 3 daughters. That is just amazing to me. I mean, nothing can ever replace their mother, but now they have the funds to possibly go to college and just get a little bit more help in their life that Ingrid would have helped with. Still to this day, not all of Ingrid's remains have been found, and the motive for her murder has still not been explained by John himself. That's all I have on the case of Ingrid Marie Lyne. I try to focus on smaller cases that aren't so known, or ones that YouTubers haven't covered. So let me know in the comments if you guys have actually heard of this case. I'm really curious to know. I do want to mention again that I just launched my website. My website consists of all true crime related items, from candles, from wax melts, to pens, to notepads, to t-shirts, to tumblers, mugs, decals, even bloody press-on nails. So I am going to be adding new items here and there. Also home decor, that I'm so excited about that. So please go to the description below and at least check out my website if you love true crime. And let me know what you guys think. Also on my website, I have a true crime t-shirt subscription box. It's called Boxo Crime. It's a $30 subscription. Every single month you'll receive a true crime related t-shirt and also 3 to 5 true crime related items. If you're not interested in doing a monthly subscription, you can also do a one-time purchase if you want just all these awesome, amazing items. Inside of the box, you will get my business card. I'm not sure if you can see that. That's my business card with that on the back. Also inside of the box, I'm only going to be showing one item that will be in at least one of the boxes. I have so much stuff, but I don't want to give away any surprises. But also I made these brochures. This is what my box is called, Boxo Crime. I don't know if it's even clear right now and you guys can see this. And on the back of this brochure is my information, my name, what this subscription is, my YouTube. And when you open this brochure, I work so hard on this. I'm so proud. I just hit my lip. I work so hard on this and I'm so proud of it. So every month in this subscription box will be this pamphlet with, when you first open it, it has some stories that I've already covered, some stories that I haven't. So they're just little short stories. Every single month will be a different one. Also, one of the items that I kind of have been promoting and showing, I don't want to show all of the items in the box because I want it to be a surprise. I want people to wonder what they're going to get. But this is my candle, let's see if it'll focus. So this is my candle waxes, or wax melts, whatever you call them. So I'm going to label them as forensic words. Also right here is the, let's see if we can focus, dictionary description, so how to say it, what it means, and also the flavor of the candle. So this one is vanilla cream plus rose. So this is what they look like. I love them so much. I hope it's, is it gonna, there we go. It kind of looks a little bit more red in here, but so they are bloody candle melts. So this is one of the items that would be going into a box. So that's just some things that would be thrown in the box. So I hope you guys want to check this out. Also, anything that's thrown in my box will also be for sale on my website along with other items. I feel like everything I just said right now just sound like a broken record and gibberish. That was totally not planned to even say or promote or anything. So I don't have a script on that, so it was just on the top of my head. So if I repeated myself about 50 times, I do apologize. I hope you guys liked this video. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!